In the chaos of an African conflict zone, skilled UN pilot John Henderson found himself thrust into a moment that would redefine his existence. The year was 2005, and the air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and gunpowder. John, a seasoned veteran with over 2 decades of flying rescue missions, gripped the controls of his helicopter as it sliced through the turbulent skies. Below him lay the remnants of a once thriving town in a war-torn nation, its buildings reduced to skeletal frames by relentless artillery fire. The thumping rhythm of the blades overhead was his only constant companion, a haunting lullaby amid the symphony of destruction. A stray missile streaked through the air, exploding perilously close to his aircraft. The blast sent shockwaves rippling through the fuselage, throwing the helicopter off balance. Dust and debris clouded his vision, and John's heart raced as he fought to regain control. Instinct honed from years of high-stakes operations took over. He maneuvered with practiced precision, dipping and weaving to evade further threats. But the onslaught from below was unyielding. Machine gun fire peppered the sky, and another hit forced him into an emergency landing. The chopper touched down amid the ruins, its engines whining in protest as they powered down, emerging from the damaged cockpit. John's boots crunched on shattered glass and rubble. His pulse thundered in his ears, adrenaline surging through his veins. The grim ruins bore the scars of relentless warfare, charred walls, overturned vehicles, and the eerie silence broken only by distant echoes of gunfire. Amidst this desolation, his eyes landed on an unexpected sitter, young girl, alone, dirty, and dressed in tattered clothes. She stood amidst the debris, clutching a makeshift doll fashioned from scraps of fabric and twigs. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old, but her eyes held a depth that belied her tender age, a stoic resilience that pierced through the surrounding horror. Her name was Amara. Unlike most children who would cower in terror, she bore an unflinching expression, her small frame radiating a beacon of courage. For John, time seemed to freeze. In her defiant gaze, he saw an echo of his own daughter back home in the United States, safe, loved, and worlds away from this nightmare. His daughter, Emily, was about the same age, with the same spark of innocence. But Amara had none of those protections. She was a survivor in a land that devoured the weak. Moved by her fortitude, John made an impromptu decision that would alter the course of both their lives. With a gentleness that contrasted his rugged, weathered exterior, he approached her, bending down to her level. "My name is John," he said softly, his voice steady despite the chaos. "I'm here to help. I promise I'll get you out of here." He showed her the UN badge on his uniform, a symbol of hope in a hopeless place. Amara's eyes flickered with a mix of wariness and trust. She nodded slowly, releasing her doll and extending a small, dirt-streaked hand toward him. The gesture was overwhelming, humbling John to his core. Holding her hand tightly, they navigated back to the helicopter. The ruins cast long shadows as the setting sun bathed the war-torn landscape in a soft, golden glow. John radioed for backup, but in that moment, he knew he was no longer just a rescue pilot. He was Amara's lifeline, her guardian, her hope for a future beyond the devastation. John Henderson had always led a life of profound courage, piloting through treacherous skies and extracting civilians from the jaws of conflict. But nothing prepared him for the emotional odyssey ahead. Back at the UN base, as medics checked Amara for injuries, John couldn't shake the image of her resilience. He learned fragments of her story, orphaned by the war. She had survived on scraps, hiding in the ruins. The echo of his own daughter haunted him mimically with her laughter and curiosity, safe in their rural American home. What if it had been her? Driven by an unbreakable resolve, John initiated the adoption process. It was a labyrinth of paperwork, legal hurdles, and bureaucratic red tape, complicated by international laws and the ongoing conflict. Months dragged on, with John flying missions by day and advocating for Amara by night. He visited her in the temporary shelter, bringing small gifts, books, toys, even a new doll to bridge the gap. Amara, initially silent and watchful, began to open up, her stoic facade cracking with tentative smiles. Finally, the approvals came through. They flew across oceans and continents, leaving behind the heat and dust of Africa for the lush greenery of John's home in rural Virginia. As the plane descended onto American soil, John felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He wasn't just bringing Amara to a new home. He was introducing her to a new world, a new culture, A whole new way of life, Amara observed, everything with wide eyes and a sense of awe. The airport buzzed with unfamiliar sounds, announcements in English, the hum of escalators, the scent of fast food. John's modest farmhouse, nestled among rolling hills and apple orchards, was a stark contrast to the ruins she knew. "This is your home now," John told her, showing her to a room he'd prepared with a bed, bookshelves, and posters of stars and planets, things he thought a child might like. The adjustment was a steep learning curve. Amara was a quick learner, adapting with the same resilience that had sustained her in Africa. There were misunderstandings. She flinched at loud noises, remnants of war's echoes, and struggled with English idioms. Homesickness crept in during quiet nights, when she'd clutched her pillow and whisper in her native tongue. But through it all, their bond grew. John learned to soothe her night terrors, holding her as she trembled from memories of explosions and loss. In return, Amara sought comfort in his presence, her small hand slipping into his during walks in the orchard. Every day brought discoveries. John found her giggling at cartoons on television, chasing fireflies in the backyard under the twilight sky, or curiously examining vegetables at the local supermarket. "What's this?" she'd ask, pointing to a pumpkin, her accent lilting and endearing. He taught her to read and write in English, introduced her to American cuisine, pancakes drowned in syrup, burgers grilled on summer evenings, and helped her understand customs like Halloween and Thanksgiving. The community embraced them. Neighbors brought casseroles and toys, and Amara started school, where her inquisitive mind shone. Challenges arose, cultural clashes, like when she shared stories of her past that classmates couldn't comprehend, or moments of isolation when she missed the rhythms of African drums. But John was her anchor. They navigated the labyrinth of emotions, together, sharing smiles over shared meals, silent understanding in quiet evenings by the fireplace. Their journey wasn't simple, but it was theirs. From the ruins where he'd promised her safety, John had built a family. Amara was his daughter in every sense, and he couldn't imagine life without her. In the heart of America's rural landscape, Amara blossomed like a flower long denied sunlight. School became her sanctuary, where her voracious thirst for knowledge found fertile ground. She devoured books on history, science, and adventure, excelling in subjects that challenged her peers. Teachers marveled at her quick wit and determination, often staying after class to discuss complex topics. It was in engineering that her passion truly ignited. From tinkering with the old tractor in the backyard, fixing a leaky engine with improvised tools, to building intricate models for science projects, Amara found joy in mechanics and logic. She dismantled radios, reassembled bicycles, and sketched blueprints of bridges and machines. "Dad, look what I made," she'd exclaim, holding up a contraption that spun or lit up, her eyes alight with pride. John watched in amazement as her talent unfurled. He'd always believed in her potential, but this was extraordinary. Recognizing her gift, he supported her wholeheartedly. He bought engineering kits filled with gears and circuits, enrolled her in online courses, and arranged meetings with local engineers. One summer, he drove her to a nearby university for a workshop, where she impressed professors with her intuitive grasp of structural dynamics. Their bond deepened in these shared pursuits. Quiet hours spent in the garage, heads bent over projects, forged unbreakable ties. John's laughter mingled with Amara's as they celebrated triumphs, like when she solved a puzzle that stumped him or consoled each other over failures. "You're brilliant, kiddo," he'd say, ruffling her hair. "The sky is the limit." Parallel to her academic achievements, Amara's curiosity about her past grew. She drew toward African culture, the vibrant colors, captivating rhythms, and stories of resilience. "Tell me about where I came from," she'd asked John, probing memories of her homeland. He handled her inquiries with grace, showing photos from his missions, bustling markets, majestic landscapes, and the indomitable spirit of her people. He narrated tales of warriors and festivals, and found African communities in the city where she could learn dances and languages. It was a delicate balance, nurturing her talents while honoring her roots. Amara attended cultural events, tasting jollof rice and learning beadwork, piecing together her identity. These explorations strengthened her gratitude for John, the man who'd rescued her and given her wings. 20 years had passed since that fateful day in the ruins. It was now 2025, and John and Amara had built a life of mutual respect and love. Amara, now 28, was a brilliant engineer working on sustainable infrastructure projects. John, retired from flying, enjoyed quiet days tending the orchard, proud of the woman she'd become. But life threw a curveball. John fell critically ill, afflicted by a rare, life-threatening condition, a degenerative neurological disorder that ravaged his once steady nerves. The vibrant man who'd piloted through storms was confined to a hospital bed, his energy waning. Local doctors were stumped. But an international medical consortium offered hope, an experimental procedure requiring a unique component, a rare mineral found only in Amara's birth country. News of the illness shattered Amara. "Dad, you have to fight," she whispered, holding his hand as his eyes dimmed with pain. The mineral was entangled in local regulations, dangerous landscapes, and shadowy interests. Amara knew what she must do: return to her homeland to procure it. John protested in lucid moments, fearing for her safety. "It's too dangerous, Amara. I can't lose you." But she was resolute. "You saved me once. Now it's my turn." Armed with intellect, courage, and resolve, Amara embarked on the journey. The flight back stirred suppressed memories. The heat, the dust, the echoes of war. Landing in the capital, she navigated bureaucracy with tenacity, bribing officials, and forging alliances. The mineral was in lawless terrains controlled by warlords. Amidst the struggles, an unexpected journey unfolded. Amara reconnected with her culture, discovering relatives in remote villages. A cousin shared stories of her parents' brave souls lost to the conflict. She danced to tribal drums, tasted familiar spices, and felt her heritage pulse within her. Each discovery fueled her mission. In a climactic confrontation, she faced a ruthless warlord. Using her engineering skills, she devised a plan, a non-disruptive extraction method that preserved the ecosystem, offering him a sustainable alternative. Negotiations were tense threats, persuasions, a daring bluff. Heart-pounding, she executed the plan under cover of night, securing the mineral, exhausted but triumphant. Amara rushed back to the US doctors, integrated the component, and against odds, John's condition improved. As he awoke, stronger, Amara sat by his side. "You did it," he murmured, tears in his eyes. "I had to," she replied. "You gave me everything. This is how I repay you with love." Their extraordinary journey had come full circle. From ruins to redemption, John and Amara were bound by an unbreakable bond of gratitude, resilience, and family.